Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you do have a voice, you have a community, you are never alone. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest today. Fiona Thorson is her name, and she has experienced a wide range of unexplainable symptoms for more than 15 years. She tried numerous allopathic and holistic therapies, as well as mind body techniques, which only provided temporary relief. Man, can I relate? Okay. After 10 years of symptoms, she finally got a diagnosis of Lyme disease, chronic fatigue syndrome, and fibromyalgia. Sometimes getting that diagnosis is all you like. That's all you want, right? Just tell me what's going on. Fiona has since done a ton of research on Lyme disease and discovered a whole new realm of information on root causes. We love root causes and alternative methods. So Fiona now teaches others how to recover from root causes of things and how to avoid having relapses, which is huge. So I love that she talks about root causes. This is going to be great. Let's bring her on the screen here and get started. Fiona, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to get this going. Man.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to start off by putting this QR code on the screen. And if anything you hear during our show sparks a question in your mind, or you're like, hey, I got to ask more questions about that, scan this QR code. You come to a calendar and you schedule a free consult with Fiona, and you can ask those questions, and she can help you out. So, Fiona, you for 15 years. That's unbelievable. 15 years of unexplained stuff before you got diagnosed. Would you be willing to share some of the, like, what you went through during that 50, like symptoms and stuff that was such a mystery during that 15 years? What was going on?
Yeah, well, I'd say it was actually more like 10 years from the
10.
time the symptoms started to when I got a diagnosis of Lyme. And then the next 5 years, I was finding new ways to recover. But early on, it started off just like I got a routine blood test done, and it showed that my thyroid levels were too high. So it showed that I had hypothyroidism. So, and at the time, I didn't even really realize I had symptoms until I read the sheet when I got my prescription. Right. And it named all these symptoms that I was like, wow, I have that. You know, I was cold, I was forgetting things, my periods were screwed up. Even though I was on birth control pills at the time, it was completely messed up. Constipation. So anyway, I thought, okay, well, this is good. I just start taking this medication. And I remember asking the doctor, well, how long do I have to be on that? She said, usually for life. And I went, what? For life?
Yeah.
So I didn't get much from her beyond that. So I just, did a bit of research, took the medication, and thought, okay, I'm okay. And it did even out. But then it was changing symptoms. I had repetitive bladder infections, repetitive bacterial vaginosis, stomach problems. Then it started to become memory problems and a bunch of things. Yeah. At one point, I decided I'm going to see a naturopath because I hadn't seen a naturopath yet. That was helpful. Helped me with my diet. Helped me, then I started to read labels on the foods, on the food I was buying, because I wasn't doing that before.
That's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time reading labels.
Yeah.
And then there was one surgery, an exploratory surgery that I had my appendix taken out. Oh, goodness, what else was there? And then it just went downhill even more. Like I was trying different things, and I was into the healing arts, and I got into yoga really heavily. And, I was still pretty active, but I was getting weaker. I ended up giving up my bike because it was too hard to ride the bike. I was taking the bus more because it was too hard to walk. And by 2014, yeah, I guess there was a point, like the subheadline of your show, it's not all in your head, because I was starting to hear that from doctors, basically, not quite those words, but just go home and relax, go on holiday.
or our tests show nothing, you must be fine.
Yep,
right.
You're fine.
If the tests aren't conclusive, then and they can't assign a condition to it, then you must be fine. You're just imagining it. Get more rest, drink some water.
Yeah. And so that's what I thought. I'm like, this is weird. I still have these symptoms, but it's showing nothing. Then I thought, well, maybe I am making this up. Maybe I am causing this.
No.
But until I was in Asia, and I went to an Oriental medical clinic, and I got some moxibustion treatment done. It's like this herb that they burn, and the smoke seeps in through your skin.
Wow.
And it was really, really good. I was very sick for a couple of weeks, but eventually, after I got over the die-off, I started to feel amazing. And so that kind of clued into me. I went, okay, it's not all in my head. There's a physical thing going on here.
Right. Wow.
So when I came back to Canada, I thought, okay, I can tell this to my doctors now, and maybe they'll be able to help me. That didn't work.
I was going to say, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall in that room to hear their response to that. It was probably not great. Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. One line I remember hearing was a doctor said, I think someone just needs to hear your story. And I went, what does she mean by
that? Thank you. Yeah. What do you say to that? That's, okay.
So anyway, I started seeing a naturopath again, and this naturopath, I saw two different ones actually, and the first one said, yeah, it looks like you have some kind of systemic bacterial infection, but we don't know what it is. I went to another one, and he said, your symptoms look a lot like my Lyme patient, so why don't you get tested? And in Canada, the tests that they do there are not really reliable, so I paid for a test that is done in California, and it did come back positive. So that's when I got the Lyme diagnosis.
Okay, and that was 2014.
Yeah.
Okay, so about 10 years ago. Okay, so just humor me and those of us out there that aren't 100% familiar with Lyme disease. What is it, and is there like a perception of this in the medical community or in general society? Like, what is Lyme disease?
Yeah, well, it is a bacterial infection. What you'll hear most is that it's a tick-borne infection, bacterial infection caused or transmitted by ticks. So it's a bacterial infection transmitted by ticks.
Yes. Okay. I've heard that. Yeah. Okay.
But, and the conventional explanation is that usually if you get bitten by a tick, oftentimes you'll see a bullseye rash on the skin. Not always, but sometimes.
Okay.
And if you catch it early with antibiotics, they do admit that you have to do heavy antibiotics for at least 2 weeks, sometimes up to 6. Then you can probably get rid of it. So I do think that part is true. But what the mainstream medical realm doesn't acknowledge is chronic Lyme disease, or I think they call it post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome, something like that. So you've been through treatment, but you're still having the symptoms.
Sure. Huh. Okay. Well, and just to throw this out there for the audience also, if you know somebody who's ever dealt with Lyme disease, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, anything that we talk about in the show today, Fiona's you've got the person to answer your questions right here. So if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube or on E360, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, it's really easy to drop a comment, and just, you don't have to be specific if you don't want to, but just like, hey, Fiona, something you said, set off a light bulb in my head, and I want to ask you a question, and she can get in touch with you, or you can scan the QR code and have a consult. But that's why we're doing it, and that's why we stream to those platforms, so that you can interact and you can reach out. So please do if you have questions. So okay, so Lyme disease, not necessarily a tick, 100%. Not that's not the only cause.
Right.
Is what you're saying. That's common. When you said that, I was like, oh yeah, Lyme disease. You get it before you get, if you get bit by a tick. But that's a common misconception, is what you're saying. It's not necessarily how else can you, or well, I guess we don't have to get into that. How else you would get it, yeah.
It could be also, I have heard from one of my naturopaths who's pretty knowledgeable in Lyme disease. They believe that black flies and mosquitoes could also transmit it. It's possibly sexually transmitted, and also from mom to baby.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So it can be transmitted all kinds of ways. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is something I had never heard before. That's interesting. Okay. Well,
but that's, I mean, in the like mainstream, I keep saying the mainstream,
sure,
there probably isn't much on that. They'll just stick to ticks. Sure. It's only ticks.
Sure. Well, and we're not trying to freak anybody out. We're not trying to scare you, everybody. We're not trying to you can't go out of your house and can't, do anything. But yeah, I guess there's other ways to that it can transmit. So, wow. Well, so what are some of the, like you've run into some of the crazy things that people have told you in the medical community between the fibromyalgia and the Lyme and the I mean, what I mean, I can relate to some of that as well. How did it, like, when you were in there talking to them about it, and they were probably, were they dismissive of your symptoms? Were they kind of blew you off for a while, right? I mean, I'm totally with you. I've been there. How did that sit? Like, how did you deal with that?
I guess I just, I don't know if it was them dealing with me or me dealing with them. Like, and I don't blame a lot of the doctors, because oftentimes they don't know beyond their scope of training, right? I don't feel that that realm of medical care is beneficial for chronic illness. I mean, it's great for surgeries and accidents and stuff like that, but when it comes to chronic illness, I think a lot of the doctors, they're not trained in it.
Right.
So, or maybe very little, is just not their specialty, whatever. So when I did go in and talk to my family doctor, or maybe walk-in doctors, they would often get a test done for me. So like, I was tested for H. pylori and diabetes, and what's that other one? Gluten sensitivity, that kind of stuff, allergies. So, I was getting some tests done, but like you said, that oftentimes they just the test came back normal. And then it was just as you said, they come back for the test results. They say, yep, it's normal, everything's fine. And then I would just walk out scratching my head.
Right.
And I mean, there was a time though, later on, after I got the diagnosis, that I had, I don't know, I guess maybe I've gone to a bunch of different people. I did find a couple of practitioners who were willing to listen, although the Lyme disease was such a touchy one, because I got the test done through a lab in the United States. So they kind of look at it going, well, we didn't do that here, so we can't really, it's like it's invalid, sort of. But in about 2017, I had one doctor who referred me to I guess something like a pain clinic. And their specialty was to help people like me with chronic illness to cope with their condition and basically live with their condition, schedule your rest, what kind of products should you use, schedule your day. Like, it was a great idea. And I think many people benefited from it, but there was a time when, so for example, I saw first the nurse practitioner and occupational therapist, dietitian, psychologist. They all did their little evaluations, and then they said, okay, well, she needs magnesium IVs. So I got that done.
Yeah.
And then she needs whatever, group therapy. There was even group therapy. So where we would talk about these things, like how are you going to cope with your day as a chronically ill person? And there was a moment during one of those, or after one of those sessions, I remember listening to all these ladies. It was mostly women in that clinic, but all women that day.
Uh-oh.
And
Okay, tell you what, we're going to go to a commercial real quick because her internet was being a little weird. So we're right about that time anyway. So I will see you guys on the other side of the break, and we are going to continue with this story because it's amazing, and I can't wait for you to we're going to dive in a little more in a second segment. So stick around, don't go anywhere, and we'll hear more from Fiona in just a couple of minutes, and hopefully we can get this connection thing figured out. But anyway, all right, please come back in the second segment though, because there's more to the story, and the best is yet to come. We'll see you soon.
Hey there. You know, every time someone comes into your business or website and uses their card to pay, a percentage of that gets folded back into the system. But it can go to Hydro with Hope instead. If you'd like your business to support us rather than feed back into the system, scan the QR code and we'll show you how to do that while saving your business money.
In a world where office workers typically receive 130 daily emails and have an 8-second attention span, CoreCentrica, with her 4 decades of international marketing experience, has partnered with the Learning Code Institute and their 30 years of neuroscientific research. Together, we are crafting unique messaging strategies that resonate, connect, and ultimately convert our target audiences. CoreCentrica, where award-winning creativity and disruptive neuroscience come together. Scan this code now, or call and click, and let us show you how CoreCentrica's partnership with the Learning Code Institute is influencing how businesses connect with their audience, foster engagement, and achieve conversions.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
Hey, everybody, before we bring Fiona back, we got that connection thing figured out, so she's good. We're all good. It was just weird there for a second. So before we bring her back, though, I want to talk to you about Invisible Condition University. ICU is something I wish I would have had 10 years ago, honestly. Every time I went in for surgery, and I've been through 4 brain surgeries and 2 others in the last 10 years. Every time we've gone in for surgery, or I've gone in for surgery, my family were basically left on their own without anybody to help them. And the hospital's great when you're there, but once you leave, you're kind of on your own. So that's why my wife, Catherine, and I created ICU, Invisible Condition University. We wanted to provide a place where other people like us, maybe like you, would have a community that listens, that cares, that walks with you through that diagnosis and care and all the confusion that can happen. No matter what it is, no matter what you're going through. We meet on Zoom twice a month for about an hour. If it goes longer, it goes longer, but we try to stay to about an hour. The first and third Tuesday of every month at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. And if you're not able to make it to the live call, they're always recorded, and you'll have access to those recordings as a member of the community. You know, we meet on Zoom we wanted it to be a safe place for people, patients, their caregivers, everybody that wants to come to the call to ask questions, vent frustrations, find information that maybe your medical provider's not telling you, because they don't always tell you everything. Sometimes they can't. So if you would like to learn more about Invisible Condition University, I know the QR code will go to invisibleconditionuniversity.com, and that's the website. I'm going to say a different website. It's called myfreegiftfromjeff.com. That's myfreegiftfromjeff.com. That will get you your first 30 days for free. So go to that website and you'll be able to get your first 30 days for free. Join us for a couple calls, see how you like it. We'd love to have you. And all right, let's bring Fiona back and get this going here. All right, we all good now? Everything good?
I think it's good now. Yeah.
All right, good, man. You know what? Technology can be your friend or it can hate you. And some days are better than others. Some minutes are better than others.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure where we left off in the story, but I think where we were kind of heading was there was a point where the doctors were like, well, take this medication for the rest of your life. Sorry, not sorry. And you said, nope, sorry, we're not going to do that. We're going to do our own research and we're going to figure out what's really going on here. Mm-hmm. So that's what you started doing. So let's pick up where we were left off there. How did you start? Where did you start doing research and how did you start finding out some of this stuff?
Well, I probably started in 2014 when I first got the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Because I remember someone saying to me, I forget, maybe one of my family members or friends, I told them, yeah, I got this diagnosis of Lyme disease. And they said, oh, Lyme disease, that's a very controversial disease. And I was like, what does that mean? And so I started attending some of the support meetings, Lyme disease support meetings in my area. And I started to learn why it was considered a controversial disease. Because it comes, the name comes from the place where a lot of people got sick from Lyme, Connecticut. And apparently they live near some kind of biotechnology lab. So there's, they believe that there was something that was released or, intentionally or not. And a bunch of people got sick and it's just kind of spread. So I started looking into that, and I was also pointed to a few resources on like making your own medicines and things like that. One of them was the website for a man called Tony Pantelleresco, and from his videos, I started making my own medicines and stuff, and he was talking about chronic illness and how a lot of these chronic illnesses are not what we think they are, but maybe instead something like nanoparticle poisoning, similar to heavy metals, but a little bit different. And so I started listening to his show and following what he was doing, and then trying out his treatments. And about the same time, that was about when I was at the clinic that I was talking about, where I realized that they were at this clinic, they were teaching us how to live with our sickness. So they're teaching me how to live as a sick person. And I thought, I don't know, that just doesn't sit right with me. I don't,
no, thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
That so many people, and especially young ones, I mean, I was in my 30s and others as well. Why are so many younger people having these chronic illnesses? It just didn't seem right. So I thought, nah, I'm just going to keep searching. And once I started using Tony's techniques, that's what really started getting me better.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so you've explored a lot. I mean, obviously you landed on this after really diving into a lot of different stuff, and some of it worked and some of it maybe didn't. Yeah. I can relate to that. We've in this house, we've tried a lot of stuff. and some of it works and some of it really doesn't. Some of it made it worse,
Yeah.
and sometimes you just don't know till you try it. So I'm really glad that you landed on something that's working. Is that part of the group coaching calls that you offer, and
Yes.
is that part of what you talk about there?
Yeah. I teach people how to make their own little electronic device. It's an electromagnetic pulsing device. So I teach them how to make that and how to use it and employ the detox techniques that go along with it, which are very similar to other detoxing techniques, but there's some specifics to the nanoparticle and heavy metal toxicity. So I teach people that. I help them out with a little bit of electromagnetic frequency, addressing the electromagnetics in the home, and helping people restore their gut. Because I think a lot of the problems that many of us have, but like with autoimmune disorders, a lot of that is gut damage.
Well, there's a huge connection, but I mean, the gut's I've heard it called the second brain, right? There's a huge connection between the gut and the brain, and if your gut's out of shape and it's all messed up and not producing what it's supposed to, your brain's not going to be working right either.
Yeah.
So I do have a question that what you said just now sparked a question in my brain. We're talking about different. It was almost like an electromagnetic pulse type thing. So one of the things that helped me, and honestly brought me back from the brink of disability in 2014 after a couple of brain surgeries I had back then. It was called lens therapy, neurofeedback, basically is what it was. And it sounds kind of similar. But I'm wondering if number one, if you know anything about that, and number two, if you know anything about that, is it similar? Is it anything you have tried or anything? Basically, they put little leads on your, electrical leads 2 at a time on the different centers of the brain, and kind of just run low wave electricity through there, and it kind of takes the static away. Basically, it's phenomenal. It saved me from having constant migraines. But I was just curious. It sounded similar, so I just thought I'd ask about it.
I think it's different. I don't know much about what you're talking about, but it sounds almost similar to like the way a TENS machine might work, with the electrical current going straight in, whereas this is an electromagnetic pulse where you have a pulsing electromagnetic field from various directions. The idea is to scramble the nanoparticle programming that's in the particles. So you scramble it, kind of like a magnet to your credit card.
Gotcha.
Scramble particles so that then your body can detox them. I would say the closest commercial thing to these devices, which were invented by Tony, is a PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic frequency.
I've heard of those. Yep, I know. I've heard of PEMF. Yeah. Okay. I knew it sounded familiar somewhere. I was trying to think of where it was. That's where I've heard it. PEMF. Yeah.
I don't. No. Tony came up with the 2 devices that I help people make. The triangle and the bucket. But those 2 devices are close to the PEMF. But I don't know. Like, I haven't read enough studies. About PEMF to know how close they are. I really don't know the details.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. No, that's really cool though. I'm glad I connected the dots on that, because that was going to drive me nuts. Like, what? That sounds so much like something. So it sounds like detoxing was huge in your protocol, like in your overall getting better journey. So you talked a little bit about nano detoxing. I don't. That's still blowing my mind a little bit. What?
Yeah.
How did? Can you, like, for those? I'm sure if it's blowing my mind, it's blowing somebody else's out there watching too. Can you dive into that a little bit more and just like how that would look? Yeah.
So one thing, as you mentioned, like there's the regular detoxing that you have to do. So prior to using the nano devices, I did some naturopathic treatment, like ozone IV and laser IV and some herbs and things like that. And that helped clean up my body, but I was still relapsing. So the nanoparticle element that comes into it, I'll give you the very basic explanation.
Sure.
That's where I'm at. I'm not a scientist, but I know kind of how it works.
Yeah, no, basic is probably all that I would understand anyway. So have at it. Yeah. Don't get too complicated.
Okay. So there are nanoparticles. So nano's the size. There are micron sized, like which are many of our supplements, and then they're nano sized, which are, I forget the number. It's like a billionth the size of a human hair, or something like that. Wow. Very small.
Okay. So
one way that these are used, I like to use the example of pain medication. I used to take this migraine medication. And again, this came from one of Tony's podcasts. And he said, try this out. Call your pharmacy and ask them if any of the medications you have on file with them have a nano delivery system. So what they do is they have nanoparticles put into the drug, and this nanoparticle is programmed to take that drug that you take and deliver it quickly and efficiently to the part of the body that needs it. So if you're taking a migraine medication, when you have a migraine coming on, that's going to go quickly to the brain or the nervous system or whatever to give you that painkiller. So I did that. I called my pharmacy and I asked about my drugs, and sure enough, most of them had something in it. So I thought, okay, this crazy guy on the radio is not so crazy. There is something to it. So they told me what they had in the drugs, and I just wrote them down. I said, thank you. And I explored some more. I discovered that these nanoparticles, apparently they can use them for cancer therapy too. So they can put it in a drug, and it's supposed to deliver the drug to the tumor and then destroy the tumor.
Nice.
The problem is that these nanoparticles can stay in the body, and because they're programmed, they can then start to assemble. And they're not just in medications; they're in food, they're in sunscreen, they're in food packaging, they're in pesticides and pollutants in the air and the water. So, again, not to freak everybody out, but it's out there. We're all exposed to it. So these particles can assemble and turn into like these fibrous threads, and that's what starts to cause havoc on the body, start to get in the way of the normal functioning of the body. So what these guys, Tony and other researchers, discovered was that when you hit it with an electromagnetic pulse, it will wipe out the programming, just like I said earlier, the magnet to your credit card.
Oh, nice.
Your credit card doesn't have your name and your balance and all that. It's just a piece of plastic. Right. So when you take that device and put it on your body, you're doing kind of the same thing. You're killing off, if you want to put it that way, killing off the nanoparticle or the buildup, really. Okay. It's not in nano size anymore. It's built up. And then you do your detox. You can do your Chinese medicine, your herbs, all that stuff will work once you get to the nano stuff. And heavy metals is an element.
So it sounds like it's like disrupting it enough and breaking it down a little bit so that when you do the detox, it's like a precursor to the detox. You're doing this to like break stuff down so that it can more easily be detoxed.
Right.
That kind of thing. Okay. Oh, that's
so if you're not doing that part, if you're just doing some detoxing and, trying to clean up the body, you're cleaning up all the garbage around in the peripheral, but that root cause, that nanoparticulate buildup is still there until you hit it with the electromagnetic pulse.
Wow.
I know it's kind of far out, but I'm convinced because I started to do it, and my symptoms I had for like 8-10 years, like I said, or longer, started to go away, and I started to see the stuff come out of my body.
Jeez. And so remember, everybody, that QR code's there for a reason. Scan it. Get in front of Fiona. This is what this is part of what you talk about in your group coaching, your one-on-one. This is the program, right? This is what you do. So with the one-on-one, you would address it more or maybe the group coaching, is that just more like, hey, who's curious about this, and you give kind of an overview, or how does it work?
The group coaching and one-on-one, I mean, there's a lot of the same material, of course.
Okay.
I give everybody a rundown of, first of all, how you make it. I've got instructions how to make those 2 devices.
Nice.
Video and written instructions, and then we talk about it. We talk about detoxing from the inside out, so your digestion, doing things like enemas or going for colonics, from the outside in, so treating the skin, certain baths, treating your food, supportive therapies, like some of the other stuff that people are probably already doing, like going to Chinese medical, from acupuncture or something like that, just kind of narrowing down what helps you with that component, and a little bit on the electromagnetics. And so with the one-on-ones is a little more personalized, because it's a lot. It's not difficult stuff, but it's a lot. And when you're sick, as you know, it's kind of hard to get a routine down and stick with it.
Yeah.
So that's what I help people with.
Yeah. So if you're, just want to throw this out there. So if there are people that are detoxing and wanting to, I mean, obviously nobody wants toxins in their body. Everybody wants to feel better. If they're like, I've been pursuing this, I've been going to chiropractic, and I've gone to cranial sacral, and I've done yoga, and I've done all the things, like you're saying, continue doing those. Like, you don't have to cut cold turkey and not do that and focus just on this. You can continue doing what you're doing. This is just, you're adding this to it, basically.
In a way, yeah. I would say this would be an additional, but in the end, you don't have to be doing all of those things. Like, you maybe keep a couple of them.
Oh,
but
okay.
For me, I mean, again, this is coming from my experience. Like, nowadays, sometimes people will say, have you tried this new treatment or this new drug or this new superfood? And oftentimes I say, no, I haven't, because I don't need to go looking for that stuff anymore. I'm at the end of that, thankfully.
Yeah.
So it should simplify. Once you stick with it for a while, you can simplify it and then just keep the supportive therapies that kind of keep you going.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the word I was hoping to hear. Simplify. Simplify. That's what, nobody needs to, I was hoping that was your answer, because nobody wants to add something to what they're doing, right? There's
no,
even if it's something small, it's like, oh my God, one more thing.
Yeah. So, it's daunting, really, because
it can be.
Yeah, man. Well, that's cool. Well, okay, so that's got to be okay. I hope you heard that, because that could add some relief to your life here. You can scale back on some of this stuff that you were told that you'd have to do for the rest of your life, and maybe save
not
some money.
Right. Well, and money too. Oh my God. Yeah. Holy smokes. I don't even want to think about the amount of money that our family has spent over the last 10 years on this kind of stuff. And some of it worked and some of it didn't. And some of it was, So that's a good point. Mm-hmm. Save some money. Yeah. Medicine is already, traditional Western medicine is already expensive enough. Oy. All right. Well, oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to have to let this soak in for a minute. So we're going to go to a commercial just for another couple minutes, and then we'll come back. And I want to kind of tie up this story and make sure people know exactly how to get in touch with you some more. And then also I want to talk about hope, because that is a big part of my story. And honestly, if people don't have hope, especially people going through a condition that they can't control, it's just not great. You got to have hope. So we're going to talk about that a little bit on the other side of the break too. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.
I'm Jake, co-founder and CEO of One Hope. My friends and I started this company in 2007 out of the back of this truck on a mission to enrich people's lives through wine. Today, we've grown into a state-of-the-art Napa Valley winery that proudly houses a portfolio of award-winning wines which have touched lives through over 40,000 nonprofits at home and around the globe. And it's happening every day. Being rooted in local communities and contributing to initiatives that uplift neighborhoods, celebrate cultures, and promote community. It's what got us here. You see, through every bottle sold, your purchase can make a direct impact on the causes you care about. One Hope's cause of choice has given back over $10 million and counting.
Hey friends, this is Ben Hummel. I'm the host of the Genius Way Show, where you'll learn to access your inner gifts, talents, and callings and how to express them out in the world. Join me here each Sunday at noon Pacific time on the Achieve TV network, right here on E360 TV.
All right, welcome back, everybody, and we are here with Fiona, and she is telling her story, and I'm just like, I always learn something. I always learn something when I'm talking to people, because that's part of the fun of being in this seat, is learning, number one, your story and what you've been through and what you've fought through, but then there's always some nuggets, and I'm hoping you're catching some of them too, because there's some good stuff here. And if you want more, scan the QR code and meet with Fiona, and she can help you. So I gotta ask. I ask this question of every single person that's on the show, and I'm always fascinated with the answer. There's no wrong answer, but on the days that you have the worst of it, right? Like your worst days, really hard days, how do you still maintain hope?
Well, when I was at my worst, about 10 years ago, there were times when I wasn't sure if I would wake up from my naps. And, later on, my mother even confirmed too. She said, I wasn't sure if you were going to make it through it either. Because I said I didn't know if I was going to make it. And at that time, I remember people say, well, just take it one day at a time, right? To me, that was just too much. I couldn't do one day at a time. I was in so much pain, physically mostly. And then mentally, I was like, I can't take care of myself. My father and my mother are supporting me, and I'm 35 years old. And
Nice.
one day at a time was too much. So I told myself, I'm going to make it through the next hour. I'm going to do 1 hour at a time. So I looked at my watch. Okay, it's 3:00. And then, doing whatever I'm doing, an hour goes by, and then I'm like, okay, I made it 1 hour. I'm going to go the next hour.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it for at least 6 months, until I started to recover. And I don't know, I guess it's different now because I still manage a few symptoms sometimes. Minor setbacks, but nothing like I was. And so if I'm having a tough time now, I'm just totally in a different headspace, because I'm on a mission for I've got more purpose now, right? Whereas, right. So, I guess that's my answer.
Awesome. No, I love that answer. Like I said, I always get a different answer, but there's no wrong answer. It's all good. So as long as hope is part of your vernacular, I'm happy, because it has to be. It has to be.
Yeah.
In somebody's life that's dealing with some sort of condition like that. I mean, with anything, you have to have hope, or why would you wake up in the morning? Honestly. So yeah. So you've seen people in your coaching practice recover from all kinds of stuff. I'm imagining. I would imagine you've got some stories. Is there anything that comes to the surface right away that's like, oh, this is a good story?
Not like really profound stories, because I'm not hearing from a lot of people at this point, and that might be good,
Maybe. Yeah.
But I have heard from a few, and I know one lady for sure has had a reduction in her, she had like really bad arthritic pain in her knees and her elbows, and she said that's gone now. She's also seen some of the stuff come out of her body like I did. Some people, what was another lady wrote me, I think it was a brain fog thing. She said after about, it takes a while, but like maybe about 6 months, she said, I just like my memory's better than it was.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I had an experience like that too after brain surgery, man. It was, some stuff that I went through, and then yeah, that was one of the like side benefits. I'm like, wait a second, I don't need to use GPS anymore. This is fantastic. This is great. I didn't see that one coming. I was doing the therapy to get rid of migraines, and then that came along with it. I was like, sweet. That's fun. Didn't even see that coming. So, well, what's coming up? What kind of, do you have anything coming up in the future that's exciting that you want to let us know, or what people can jump on?
Excuse me. I don't have the date finalized, but probably the end of October or early November, I'll do another group coaching session.
Nice.
And that's usually a 4-hour session. So we do either 1 hour per week for 4 weeks, or sometimes 2 hours one week, 2 hours the next. And included in that is, all the stuff I mentioned earlier, instructions on how to make the devices. There's a couple of documents, one for remedies, one for recipes, a little library of some resources. If people are wondering, like, where does this come from? What's the research behind it? Then I've got some of that for them, as well as our group time together.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Because sometimes I like group more than individual, honestly. No matter what side I'm on, if I'm on the call or if I'm running the call, I like the group better, because you can, there's value in the individual too, but I like the kind of the bantering back and forth, and like you can learn a lot from people, that are just saying things. You're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. That was cool.
Oh, I learned lots from my students as well. And I often get like, I've had nurses and homeopaths and naturopaths. And so they put their value in at the same time. It's great.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And whether it's somebody else's group call, it doesn't even matter what the call is about. It's just the group dynamic that's so cool. So, yeah, very nice. And one more time, how is the best way for people to get in touch with you most directly? The QR code, of course, but if people want to reach out, how can they do that?
They can email me, and it's fiona@fionaforhealth.com, or just go to my website, fionaforhealth.com.
Awesome. Fiona@fionaforhealth.com. Cool. Yep. All right. I'm going to pop that one up there too. And we'll have that. And then, so there's the email. And then, oops, wait a minute. Oh man, pushed the wrong button. Welcome to live TV, everybody. I don't have my fingers are not working today, apparently. There we go. There's the QR code again. All right, awesome. So if you had, we've got about 2-3 minutes left. Is there any last thing that you want to just get out there? Like if somebody came to you and they're like, look, this is what I'm dealing with, I don't know what to do. and they're in the very beginning stages of what you went through, what would you tell them?
Ooh, well, I guess I'd probably just remind them that to not stop searching, I suppose, for the answers, because I do believe that we have them. The solutions are out there, and we have some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd also add to that, like a lot of the stuff in the workshop and my consultations, they're very physical solutions, but just not to forget, your mental state, your emotional, your spiritual side, because I really feel that plays a part in it. If you have a spiritual practice or prayer or something like that, do that as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That is definitely something you can keep going on. Yeah. Prayer's a beautiful thing. So yeah, for sure. Well, awesome, man. I appreciate you being here, man. This is so good. And I'm so glad that we got to talk about all this. And I'm so glad that you have a way for people to get in touch with you, because that's ultimately what I want, is for people to, if you're going through something like this, please scan the QR code and reach out to Fiona, because she's the one that you want to talk to. So, so Fiona, thank you for being here so much. And I appreciate what you're doing and how you're helping people, and just your time for being on the show today. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate it. All right. I'm going to take, oops. Nope. There we go. All right, everybody, man, I love stuff like that. Okay. We are about done today, but thank you for being here. Thank you so much. And if this is your first show watching, thank you for being here. And if you've been watching for a while, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And if you're on Facebook watching, or YouTube, or if you're on E360, or you're on something else, like, subscribe, share, follow, all the things, and maybe if this is your new favorite episode, share it out. It might be somebody else's too. So remember to myfreegiftfromjeff.com. So if you want to check out Invisible Condition University, got the date back here for the next one, which is November 5th. So jump on there, let me know. Go to the website, myfreegiftfromjeff.com, and you can join us on the next call. Love to have you there. Join us for the next show. Next episode of Invisible Condition will be on Friday, October 25th. So I look forward to seeing you there, and bring a friend, right? And until then, have an amazing day, and we'll see you soon.